There is always some sort of fascination that comes with public figures. People often want to know where they live, where they hang out, and how they spend their money, among other things. That is why knowing the net worth of presidents before and after their tenures may be something that interests you. How about we let you in on some of the most famous presidents' net worth before and after their terms in office? Would that be something you would want to know? Keep it here, because that is just what we are about to do. Donald Trump. Perhaps the most controversial president that America has ever seen, Donald Trump was worth $3 billion before he took over the presidency and left when he was worth $2.3 billion. You have to keep in mind that Trump was an astute business person before he came into power. You probably knew him from The Apprentice show before the presidency. According to Bloomberg, the presidency was not good for Trump's net worth because it cost him a whopping $700 million. After losing the presidency through impeachments, riots, and many Americans who lost their lives under his rule, there is no doubt that the man's brand suffered a great deal. Currently, he is dealing with several legal challenges on different fronts. Because of that, his political wealth is declining and his properties are aging. Bill Clinton. When he got into office, Bill was worth $1.3 million. He left when he was worth $241.5 million. Bill and his wife Hillary made a great power couple, and they had a net worth of $1.3 billion when he won the election and took over the White House. This is according to a study conducted at the American University. When leaving the White House, the couple began a journey to the top of a book deal and a speaking tour that would witness their combined net worth rise over 6,000%. That makes them one of the highest-earning post-presidency couples. Their combined wealth is estimated to be over $240 million, according to Celebrity Net Worth. Barack Obama. The world celebrated when America inaugurated its first Black president. What most people didn't know is that Barack and his wife Michelle came into the White House barely as millionaires. At the time of attaining the presidency, Barack was worth $1.3 million, and by the time he was leaving, that figure was $70 million. You were probably wondering how his net worth grew so drastically, but what most people fail to understand is that this man is an inspiring life story and a remarkable oratory and writing skills. As such, he leveraged his celebrity status to go on speaking tours and land book deals. All these helped him and his wife get to their current net worth as reported by Celebrity Net Worth, and if they keep at it, that figure is set to rise according to the American University. Thomas Jefferson. Before he was president, Thomas was worth $240 million. Unfortunately, he left office a poor man, such that the only word that describes his net worth at the time was broke. During his tenure, the most powerful land tycoons were rich in assets but poor in cash. Wealth back then was measured in terms of slaves and land, rather than money. As such, it was common for the aristocrats in the area to accrue huge debts. Unfortunately, Thomas Jefferson was running a game whose consequences would cost his family inheritance. He inherited expansive holdings that included several plantations, numerous slaves, and a sprawling estate. Nonetheless, his huge land acquisitions, extravagant lifestyle, and investments ended up costing him handsomely, more than could be covered by slave plantations. Deep in debt and outstanding obligations, everything came crashing down when Thomas passed on, and his kin was forced to auction everything from his furniture and animals to his slaves and home. George W. Bush. George Bush, the son of Senior Bush, a political figure of the 20th century, came into the White House with a net worth of $20 million. He left office with a net worth double that amount. Bush had already served as the governor of Texas and already owned a sports team before assuming office. According to a report by the American University, Bush took over the presidency with a net worth of $20 million and had doubled that amount to $40 million by the time he was leaving. Just like most of the other presidents, most of his earnings came from a post-presidency speaking circuit that is quite lucrative, if you must know. Between 2009 and 2015, Bush gave close to 200 speeches worth six-figure amounts. This is as reported by Politico. Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore assumed the presidency with a net worth of $1.3 million and left with a net worth of more than $100 million. The New York Times reported in 1878 that a then young Roosevelt had inherited $60,000 from his prominent father, which translates to $1.3 million currently. The young man would then go on to be one of America's most dynamic and consequential leaders. Regrettably, he lost a big portion of the inherited fortune through land deals. The only good thing is that he turned out to be a creative writer following his stint in public service. With that, he was able to make some of the money he had lost back and inherited more. It's hard to figure out his exact wealth, but he often features in the richest presidents of all time lists. Harry Truman. Though the exact net worth of Harry before and after the presidency is not specified, it did amount to 6 figures for both the entry and exit out of the White House. Harry Truman holds a huge distinctions. For instance, he's the first and only president to use nuclear weapons during a war. He was also a Medicare recipient and recorded to have been the poorest American leader in history. The 33rd president did a couple of odd jobs and even served as a guard during the First World War. It was a hat shop venture that failed and left him deep debt such that his salary as the president was doubled during his tenure in a bid to lift him up. You may want to note that his net worth never exceeded $1 million his entire life. Lyndon Johnson. As he was assuming the presidency, Johnson was worth $14 million, and as he was leaving, the net worth was $20 million. You want to keep in mind that his family net worth was $14 million owing to their TV and radio holdings as well as land. When Lyndon passed on in 1973, the value of his estate had risen to $20 million, which is about $118 million today. Richard Nixon. Before the presidency, Nixon was worth $2 million, and after, he was at $15 million. This man became president in 1969 and was the 37th president of the U.S. He went on to resign from the position disgracefully, but luckily managed to make the most out of his stint at the White House. As reported by the American University, Nixon managed to earn from his time as president and grew his net worth by the time he passed on in 1994. Gerald Ford. You probably didn't know that Gerald Ford was at some point the president of the U.S., but that is probably because he was only in the Oval Office for 3 years. When he was coming in, his net worth was $1.4 million, and by the time he was leaving the office, it was $7 million. According to a study by the American University, Ford grew his net worth by 400% for the entire time he was president. Like most of the other presidents, he too spoke and wrote books to make an extra buck. Jimmy Carter. As he was getting into the White House, Jimmy was worth $2.3 million, and by the time he was leaving, his net worth was at $10 million. The 39th president of the U.S. was a peanut farmer before assuming office. Studies show that he was the one who pioneered the current post-presidency money model. Ronald Reagan. Before his presidential stint, Ronald Reagan was worth $10.6 million, and this was mostly from his thriving acting career. By the time he was leaving office, the man was worth $15.4 million. He went on to grow his income, which rose by 40% by the time of his passing on in 2004. George H.W. Bush. Senior Bush came into office with a net worth of $4 million and left with a net worth of $23 million. Between 1989 and 1993, when he was president, Bush had grown his net worth by 475%. Of course, a part of that amount was from his position as a CIA director and his tenure as vice president under Ronald Reagan. There it is, folks. These are some of the president's net worth coming in and out of office. Which one surprised you the most? Did you learn anything? Tell us in the comments section. Please also like the video and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more content like this. We'll see you in the next video.